My name's Tom. Today I'm joined by Raj Somaiya. Raj, nice to have you.
Hi, thanks, Tom. Thanks for inviting me in.
Let's start with a brief intro to who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Raj Somaiya. I run a company with my wife called Silver Fox Events, and I've named myself the events architect.
Lovely. Great. Right, Raj, I'm going to start at the start.
Yeah.
Before we get into your business and hear about all of your events, what did early childhood look like for you? How did you end up as the events architect?
Usual. We basically my parents came from, obviously, we were born in India, but then we moved to Africa. So our second generations were all in Africa, in Nairobi. I had some problems in Africa, so then we moved. England was very, very kind to us. So we got shipped into England. And then, yeah, usual story, no money, what we're going to do, start working in factories. My dad started working for GPO back in the day, climbing the monkey poles and stuff. And then off they went. And then they basically had jobs. Then they bought their first shop, a corner shop, like most Indians did. And then we bought another corner shop and we carried on in that way. And throughout the shops, I was supposed to be educating, but I absolutely loved them. So me and my mum used to work in the shops. My dad was working for British Telecom. And then as we went through this process, around about 1989, 1990, we had some interest rate issues where the interest rate went from 5 to 15% overnight. We were quite leveraged on some of our buildings and properties. So we had to sort of descale. But in the process of that, we started a sort of flower and balloon business from our shops, which were card shops and post offices. So we moved that business home, the flower and balloon business, and we started doing weddings. And that's how we really started our whole career in weddings after that. And it was probably 1991.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
got your mum to thank
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My mum was the entrepreneur. Yeah. She's
and
amazing.
what was your first experience of attending a wedding?
So I was brought up in a very white community. There wasn't many Indians or Asians or brown people around where I was, and we had a lot of Jewish mates, a lot of English mates. So we attended some of the sort of Indian weddings as we did, as family weddings and stuff in Leicester or in London.
Yeah.
They were just really big mess of people. It was like you're in a community hall or you're in a sports hall. There'll be a canopy in the corner where they'll get married, sort of theatre style seating, and then we'll have like a buffet lunch, and everyone would go home. And it'd be more like a village gathering of about 500 to 700 or 800 people. And I think back in the day, again, I think when I sort of thought it through, back in the day where we were in the villages and things, maybe in Africa or in India, everyone would get invited from that village to the wedding. So when we have a wedding, an Indian wedding, it seemed to be that way, that it wasn't just like your Uncle Sam or, your Auntie Sally. It was like everybody was invited. So if you were in that community, in that particular town, then everyone would get invited to the wedding. So I think they've just carried that tradition off of like villages and village weddings. So it's quite nice. Everyone was there. It's very simple. Everyone just sits down, watch ceremony, and it's just, but like I said, it's a buffet lunch, 5, 6, 7, 800 people. It doesn't really matter how many people come because they cater for everyone. And then, you just wrap up and go home. So it'd start about 12, finish about 6.
And so was that kind of your early experience of organising your first weddings as well?
No, because again, those are the weddings that I attended on the sort of on the South Asian front back in the day. I had no relevance that we were going to fall into this market whatsoever. What we were doing was decorating weddings. So we were decorating a lot of Jewish weddings. We were decorating a lot of English weddings, which were really cool, but they were a lot smaller. So we had like 10 tables, 15 tables, 11 tables. So we were doing about, I think in the early 90s, we started doing about 10, 11 weddings a weekend where we'd put flowers and balloons on the tables and things and decorate them and then go. So that's all we did really. So our whole education came more from the Western side of the wedding market rather than sort of the Asian side of the wedding market.
But then as your career progressed, you kind of started to specialise in Indian weddings. Is that right?
Yeah, we just fell into it. It was absolutely amazing. So what Mum realised was that we were doing an English wedding with 10 tables, and you'd get paid around about maybe £10 per table to do flowers and balloons in there. So you're getting 100 quid for 10 tables, and a delivery and collection could be like 15 quid. It's like your quid's in. We try and do 10 of them. And then it's a very simple process here. So we do 10 weddings. We've got 100 quid. You make a grand. You're in for a Saturday. Done. Right. Then we started realizing when we looked at the sort of the Asian weddings and the South Asian weddings, they had like 50 tables and 60 tables. Why? Because they had 500 people and 600 people. Like now we're charging £10 per table times 50, £10 per table times 60 in one gig in the same sort of amount of time. Obviously, a little bit longer because you're doing 5 times the amount of work, but we're getting more cash for one spot.
Yeah.
So we started doing more of these Asian weddings and started doing more Asian decoration, and then there was a big evolution with Asian weddings where it started off in sort of community halls, sports halls, then went into town halls. From town halls, they went into started nibbling into hotels. These were like the posher Asian weddings. So a lot of the big Pakistani weddings, a lot of big Indian weddings in Manchester started going into hotels. So there was a hotel in Manchester called the Piccadilly Hotel, and the ballroom used to accommodate 700 people. So we used to have a contract with Joe Azzopardi, who was the general manager there, and he was the events guy and ran it. So we'd have a big Indian wedding on there or a Pakistani wedding, and we would go there and decorate it and then do one because that's all we wanted to do. And then he did a wedding. He did a few of these, and I think on one of the I think his third Indian wedding or Pakistani wedding he did. He gave us a call around about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, screaming down the phone, saying, "Oh my god, oh my god!" He says they're everywhere. So we're like, "What?" My mum's like, "What's wrong? What's happened?" He goes, "They're in the kitchen." He goes, "There's bones in under the table, and there's nappies everywhere, and there's like there must be about 2,000 people here." He goes, "I just don't know what to do. It's completely like complete chaos." And he goes, "There's cutlery and crockery trying to be washed, and there's no waitresses here. The boys are serving the food." He goes, "It's just an absolute sham." This is 1992. So mum goes, "All right, all right, all right. Please come down, please come down, please come down." So I'm sat there in my pajamas on a Saturday afternoon, probably watching Match of the Day or something, like chilled out. I've done my work in the morning. Mum goes, "Right, come on, lad, get your trousers on. We're going to the Piccadilly Hotel." So my mum walked in like I don't know, like Superman. We sort of went into this place, and it was carnage, carnage. I can't explain to you. There was 2,000 people in the Piccadilly. There were just people serving each other. There was people putting food in bags. There was people with babies in the corners. It was just carnage. Went there. We didn't understand what we were doing. Although we saw us as being brown, so he probably just presumed that because we were the same color, we understood what was going on.
Mm.
But we blagged it a little bit. We're like, "Oh, okay." Mum spoke the language, which was great. She spoke Urdu and she spoke Hindi and she speaks Gujarati, which is our native language. So she spoke Urdu. She spoke to the guys in the kitchen, like, "What's going on? How can we help?" We managed to settle this event down. We managed to get to the bottom of it and nail this event. Nail it, not really nail it. We managed to keep the hotel intact, keep the kitchen as clean as we possibly could. They might have nicked a load of utensils out of the kitchen. I ain't got no idea, but it was carnage. So it was like literally, you look at, if you see some scenes on TV and it's after the New Year's Eve party and the place just looks an absolute shit show. It was that times 100.
Yes.
So we went there. So we sat down with Joe Azzopardi at the end. The event finished at 7 o'clock, thank God, because they're normally daytime events. And all these people had disappeared, and there was just carnage all over the floor, and the kitchen was just a total mess. And he goes, "Oh my God," he goes, "I can't do that ever again." He goes, "Mrs. Somaiya, you need to help me with these weddings. Thank you for coming in." So we're like, he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I got 10 of these every Sunday or 2 every month." And
Wow.
he goes, "I'm not doing them." He goes, "I'm going to pay you to do them. You please look after them. Because I'll give you £250 a wedding and you come and organize these weddings because I ain't doing them." So we're like, nice.
Oh,
Because we're just thinking about 10 weddings with
yeah.
60 balloon settings on there consistently. So we've got like a bit of a contract here. So all right, we can run these Asian weddings. To cut a long story short, we ran Joe Azzopardi's place, the Piccadilly Hotel, for many years after that. And Mrs. Somaiya, my mum, became the head honcho really of all these weddings and
Yeah.
all the weddings in hotels. So then in Leeds, Liverpool, and Manchester, probably about 45 hotel contracts all went through my mum. You couldn't book an Asian wedding anywhere in the northwest of England. So if you needed an Asian wedding in a hotel, you had to go through my mum.
Incredible.
Yeah, just
What an
felt
origin
totally
story.
total random thing. You know.
So tell me then, I've been lucky enough to attend an Indian wedding, but for anyone that hasn't been to like an Asian wedding, tell
Yeah.
us about, because they are quite an affair, aren't they? So tell us about what's
Yeah,
involved in a wedding like
yeah, I
that.
think because there's such a big culture difference with an Asian wedding. First of all, you got the volume of people. Okay, so English weddings are 100, maybe 60 for the wedding breakfast and 120 at nighttime
Mm.
for the buffet. But then you've got like 700 people, maybe 1,000 people. When we did Omar Khan's wedding, it was 3,000 people. So, you know, we deal in volume.
Mm.
So just to see 700 people would shock someone anyway, right? So you've got the volume of people. Then you've got the food. Now, your kitchens or our kitchens, you know, our British kitchens are not tailored to cook our food. So we're having to bring different kitchen equipment in and heat up 700 lamb legs. Like, it's not a joke, right? Because that's what we need to do. So you've got this whole infrastructure that goes on behind the food. Then you've got the drinks. Obviously, the Muslims don't drink, so it's just soft drinks. But the Indians, the Hindus do drink. So then you've got to bring a bar in, and they don't want to pay corkage for the whiskey or whatever. So you've got a lot of cultural differences. So you're squashing in what really belongs in a field in India somewhere or in Pakistan, where you've got food stations and a big space and the whole village comes and eats. You're squashing that into a ball and shoving it into a five-star hotel, which it's trying to push out everywhere and it's just not working correctly. So we had to devise ways of making that happen in hotel rooms because
Mm.
the great thing is for the hotel on a Sunday, they're dead. So if they could get 3, 4, 5, 6, 10,000 pounds on a Sunday and do nothing,
Yes.
they're happy days for them because
Yeah.
it's a dead day. It's not a wedding day. It's not a corporate day. It was the Asian wedding day and a Jewish day, to be honest, because Jewish weddings were on a similar day. So they loved this outdoor catering thing that happened on a Sunday.
And that again, I don't know, but like I've heard that some weddings last for days in terms of
Yeah. So
so
then there's another thing that goes on with it all. Yeah. So just for the venue itself, it's just that particular occasion. So it might be like the wedding and the wedding reception. But literally, like a week before that, there are umpteen amount of ceremonies that need to take place to get there on the Saturday or the Sunday.
yes.
So we have the Mendi parties, we have the Haldi parties, and then we have like, you know, the Chura parties. And there's lots of different individual events that take place all week that builds up to the main wedding reception. And then they'd go and do it all again because that might be the boys' side, and then the girls' side will go the week later. So it's really complicated in the way that you've got to look at the culture and the background and where they come from and how they do their wedding. But it's all different, but it's all got a similar pattern to it where there's a shitload of events and one big one at the end.
I mean, it sounds like you're a city planner, not like a wedding planner. The infrastructure that goes with a week's worth of a village, you're
Yeah.
planning, basically, aren't you? I'm going to go back a little bit, Raj,
Sure.
because I mean, lots of us probably would have only had first-hand experience of working with someone like yourself if you've had a wedding.
Yeah.
Right? So, in a nutshell, what is it you do? What's the remit of a events organizer and a wedding planner that's working to the kind of level that you're working?
I think the most important part about organizing somebody's wedding or an event or a party is listening to the brief. And I've said this 100 times. You've got to listen. So they're you know the bride. Let's talk about a bride and groom.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter creed, color, whatever. You know, Japanese, English, Russian, whatever they are. They are getting married, so they're in love and they want to celebrate that particular day with their nearest and dearest, their family and friends. Okay, so and they're going to have some sort of religious ceremony or binding ceremony on that day, which says that they're going to be married for the rest of their life. It's a massive step for someone. Okay, they're in love and they're going to get married. So they've made that decision. But oh my God, it's probably one of the hardest things that they go through. And it's really challenging for bride and grooms also. And it tests their love also sometimes, just to go through the whole ceremony thing and put the whole thing together. So my job is to try and make that as easy as possible. What we want to try and do is take that beautiful bride and groom in. You guys are in love. How do you want your wedding to go?
Yeah.
So we're basically then trying to take all the pressures away from them and put that wedding together for them from their brief.
Got you. I mean, it's way more than that, though, isn't it? Because you're also dealing with personalities in that mix.
Yeah.
Who is for your business and the kind of weddings and parties you throw? Who's an average client for you? What do they kind of?
So we generally, I mean, we have celebrities, but they're far and few between. We generally deal with entrepreneurs in the UK and CEOs, you know, the business people of England really, you know, are our sort of clients generally. And then we have the odd, you know, celebrity wedding or whatever. But so we deal with very affluent CEOs and entrepreneurs in the country, and they rule the roost, and they will tell their daughter or their son how they expect their wedding to go, which then now becomes a bit more complicated because I'm not now listening to the brief of the bride and groom, which might be different to what daddy wants or what mummy wants or what the in-laws want. So it gets a little bit complicated.
Got you. I mean, I guess that comes with a high price tag. What kind of prices are we talking about for a kind of CEO entrepreneurial
Weddings.
event?
So I mean, so a lot of the weddings, I mean, I've been doing this for 3 decades now. So where we did weddings back in the day at 50, 60 grand, there were gorgeous weddings with marquees at the late 90s. But obviously that's going to escalate, to two, 300 grand as you go through and start putting more production and start having like the sugar babes there and this, that, and the other in like the 2000s. Now, honestly, you can spend so much more money if you want to. And then they've got this destination market. So you could easily go into sort of half mil to a mil. You could even spend, multiple seven figures on destination weddings. Depends what they want to do and how elaborate they want to do it and where they want to do it. And it costs money to do things.
Can you tell us what the most expensive wedding you've organised ran into?
So I can't really give you a specific number, but it's multiple seven digits. Like, um, and it's really hard to put a number. So, for example, we might do a wedding you know, um, for a sum of money, but then they might get an artist in who was 50% of the budget. So that all of a sudden you're spending this amount of money. So it's irrelevant then really to the party itself.
Yeah.
So it's so say so you I don't know, I've never had J-Lo at a wedding, but say she cost $5 million, but my event was $1.5 million. Suddenly I've done an event for $6.5 million. I haven't. J-Lo was 5 million. Do you know what I mean? So it's all what's the right word for it? Yeah, it's all relative, isn't
Yes.
it? To how what pieces are you putting into the puzzle? If that
Got
makes
you.
sense. Yeah.
But I guess regardless of the final figure,
Yeah.
when it's high figures like that, the expectation is really high, right? And I
Yeah.
guess it's we've all heard the term bridezilla, and
Yeah.
people's that get to the point of the wedding and their personality might switch a bit.
Yeah.
Is that a fair stereotype? Is it just brides? Is it everyone? What kind of starts to happen when the stakes are that high?
Yeah, I think so. You've hit the nail on the head where there is a bridezilla, and I think it's quite fun to use that term. And it's just really a stressed bride. She's getting married and she's dreamt about this probably all her life, and she wants it to go according to plan. And she's got this beautiful Disney picture in her head, whatever that might be. Could be a gothic theme, it could be a snow theme, it could be bohemian theme, whatever it is. But she's got this theme in her head, and she wants to try and deliver upon that. Then you've got the person who's paying the bill. And then you've got then you've got like the groom and maybe the groom's father and stuff like that. They're splitting the bill. So it really comes down to who's paying the bill, sort of carries the weight. But then it's for a bridezilla or a groomzilla at that point, if the two dads are paying the bill, to put their points forward, to fight their case and say, no, we really want this, or we really don't want that, which is quite interesting too. So where the two dads might want so and so to turn up from India and sing a song, they're like, we're not into Bollywood, mate. Like my friends are not into Bollywood. We'd rather get this particular DJ there. We're like, oh no, what do you want all that English rubbish for?
Mm.
So these cultural differences happen. So the bride and groom have been brought up here in Britain, in the Western society, and have been to lawyer balls or doctors' balls or CEO balls or Chamber of Commerce balls, where the Indian guys might have spent 50% of their life abroad, come into England as entrepreneurs, started trading in the UK, but still got that Asian mentality or the old school mentality. So you've got this clash of sort of modern British couple, although they're brown, but then you've got the dads who have come from India or Africa or Pakistan or whatever, and they're influencing it. So it gets really complicated.
Sounds like you're a bit of a family therapist as well, Raj. Do you ever get drawn into those kind of family politics?
We do mention ACAS a lot. Like we genuinely go into families and then sort of negotiate, what happens. Honestly, it's I don't want to mention like things like I don't want to mention things like war and how they negotiate things and how, whatever does this and that. But we honestly feel like that. We're literally like negotiators to say, this would really work. And look, your daughter would like this, but I know you want to do this, but can we do this at another time? We try and compromise the whole thing. This is besides actually putting the event together and putting the suppliers down. This is just a whole different area
what's the biggest difference between the cultures you've worked with,
Yeah.
and which are the most fun and which have the, I guess, the craziest parties?
Yeah. So again, I think on the weddings, um, all the weddings are a very similar format. There is a wedding or a wedding ceremony, and then there's some sort of dinner, and then there's some sort of party at the end of that. So when you influence sort of alcohol in there,
Mm,
then the parties are a bit more crazier. Okay.
yes.
But then I've been on Muslim events and we've done some cracking events where we've had some really good parties afterwards as well. And no one's drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
So I think weddings are quite individual to families, to be honest. But when you look at parties, I think we come back down to the crazy CEOs again, the nutters. And these are female or male. We're talking about, you know, huge boats in the middle of, the Amalfi Coast and having your wife's 50th birthday party on the top deck and inviting 200 people. These are crazy parties.
Yeah.
And I think it's the personality of the CEO that really determines that.
Have you got any examples? We all
Yeah.
have a story of like the lifestyles of the rich and the famous. Like, have you got any
Yeah.
examples of big elaborate parties you've thrown for those CEOs
Yeah.
and what they look like?
Look, these guys and girls, have built businesses up and made a lot of money. They've not built businesses and made a lot of money because they're thick. They remember detail. In their business, they've had attention to detail. In their business, they have excelled in their industry like I have excelled in my industry. They have studied, worked hard, and knew exactly how to deliver upon that. Those business methods and those items that they use to build their business on then gets put into our events business,
Mm.
and they see us exactly the same way. And there are fundamentals in every business that work, like attention to detail. So when you're putting an event together for a CEO, you've got to be, you've really got to have your wits about you because they are not dummies. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they want, and they know exactly how it should be executed. And they're paying you a load of money to make sure that happens. So you've got to be really careful taking on a 7-digit wedding from a CEO and thinking that you're going to blag it because you're not. I'm telling you the detail. If you've put 3 cushions, on a sofa and the middle one was supposed to be orange and the ones were black on the outside with emblems on there, 2 black cushions and an orange cushion, and then you've replaced that with maybe, a peach cushion or maybe a red one because you thought it'd be all right, they're gonna spot it straight away. They're gonna say, "Mate, we expected this." And I've walked around with CEOs and the hosts of these parties just say a couple of hours before just to make sure, and they're checking the cutlery, the crockery, the glassware, they're checking menu cards, they're checking table, they're just looking at the ambience, they're checking the lighting and the scene. They know everything. So you just got to be really careful. And I put it out to planners out there that we work really, really hard, planners, where we don't get respected enough for the job that we do. Because when we are doing these large scale events and we've earned them over the 30 years and we deliver upon them, we just people don't realize how much detail we first of all go into and how much we need to do to make sure it works correctly. But they don't realize the pressure we have from family or pressure we have from the host. That's the
Give,
scary bit.
give me an example of like one of those things. What the kind of requests you've had in the past and the level of detail that people are looking for.
So, we've got a crazy client. So 50th birthday in Paris. He wanted to use the Opera Garnier, which is unheard of. You don't do 50th birthday parties in the Opera Garnier, in the Paris Opera House. It's mainly for beautiful events and filming, and the room is insane. And you have to be a billionaire to book it. They're not interested in giving it to anyone. So we went through, we applied, we told him who he was. He had to put a huge deposit down, um, and then we booked the venue. So then we're dealing with, French fire brigade, French security, French police, French authorities, French council. We had honestly boardrooms of 20, 30 French people screaming at each other and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I had to stop the meeting on many occasions, like, because I had a translator and say, guys, girls, can you please just calm down a minute? It's my event, my client. I need to know what you're saying. Because if he's telling me that he wants to come out of the cars and he wants red carpet going up the Opera Garnier and he wants security putting out there because they'll all have Rolexes on or whatever, I need to make sure that's happening. And they're like, okay, we understand. We thought we would just do. I said, no, you don't do. I have to answer to my client. He's going to expect me to deliver upon what he's told me to do. And you guys need to listen to what I'm telling you, what I need you to do, if it's possible. And then, honestly, we did this fantastic party. Everything was organized. And three weeks before the event, Sheetal, who's the creative director, my wife, and head of entertainment, just started texting my client saying it would be fantastic to have an artist there. And don't forget, we're in the most sensitive building in Paris. Chandeliers are probably worth, well, they're unlimited amount of money, and they shake under the smallest tremor. Oh no, but then they want to get this artist in there, a rock star. And like they start bantering at night time, and then they said, "Yeah, we'll do a deal. We'll do a deal." We found out this artist is here and here, and he's free in the middle, and we can fly him in with his 30 crew. I've got a very, very small after party area with a very beautiful black crystal chandelier. My party is only for 160 guests, so the room's quite tight. So if you put a rock star in the middle of the Opera Garnier with their rider and their stage and their 30 crew and everything else, that it's just not going to happen. Okay. But oh no, my client has insisted and my wife has insisted that Raj, you can make this happen. You make it happen. So I was like, it's just taken me 6 months to get over the French and get everything that I've needed to do. I've got 35 dancers from Italy. I've got 50 or 60 band members and 35 violins in the alcoves. There's enough. We've got the best caterer in France, who's king cook for the king of France and stuff. So, well, I've done everything to my maximum that I could possibly do, and then they chuck it in, and it's Liam Gallagher. So it's like, oh God. So I start speaking to management. Well, they want this, don't they? And they want that, and they want speakers, and they want this, they want that, and they want stacks, stacks, and stacks, and stacks. I said, you're not catering for 50,000 people. We're catering for 150 people in the most prestigious venue in the world in a tiny little box. Like, what do you not understand about that? Oh, the management said, oh, we won't just throw his mic down if you don't have this and you don't have that. Anyway, got over all that. Did all the private jets, did whatever we needed to do to bring all these people in. And the biggest problem that I had is that the French sound engineers there would not let the decibels go over 90. Now, a drumstick's 105. Liam's voice needs to be over 100, 108, 109, because he needs to hear his voice. If he can't hear his voice
Yes.
on a monitor, obviously with the drumstick being at 105, he's knackered. He's going to throw the mic down and fuck off. So I was like, and he literally would, and I've been told that he would. So I've got a decibel at 90 and a decibel at 105. I can't get round it, can't get round it, can't get round it. And the only solution really was just to pull the machine out when he was singing. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Because they're watching and they had the French authorities there, and everyone was really nervous about Liam Gallagher coming in. He's never done a gig for 150. He's done a gig for 115,000 probably. So I was like, I'm really in the shit here. Anyway, I've just been through the whole event. It's all gone really, really swimmingly well. He's downstairs now getting smashed on brandy. A brandy bottle that wasn't on his rider, by the way. And then we had to go and buy it for him from the Peninsula at 400 euros. He had 2 of them. I remember my daughter running out and getting one. So he's getting smashed downstairs. The show's at 11 o'clock, and then he's walking up the stairs. The sound thing's still connected. So I'm like, I'm knackered here. I've got to pull that lead. So then he's walking along. I remember, because it was a surprise. No one knew he was there. He was going to make a surprise in blah, blah, blah. And we're all Manchester people. So it's a massive thing for us, to get one of our guys from Manchester in Paris. And he's walking along, and then I had a radio and a radio of my tech. And I said to this girl, I said, my coordinates, you're going to have to pull that plug. He goes, but they're here. I said, you're going to have to pull that plug. Just go around the back, just pull the plug slowly and set the decibel meter as if it runs anyway on 90 and fix it. And she goes, oh, Raj, I really don't think I can do that. I said, you need to pull that plug. And I remember saying it 3 times to her. And then the 3rd time I said, pull the plug right now, because he's walking in. And she did. And he went on. But what they were all scared about was this beautiful zillion-dollar chandelier shaking and coming down. So that's the risk that I had to take to have Liam Gallagher on stage. I got away with it, right? I got away with it. And honestly, I got so smashed after his set, because I said, just once those drums went off and his guitars went off and the speakers were off and everyone had loved it and it was fantastic and the DJ was on at 90 decibels, I was done. It was the scariest moment of my life.
You must have been watching that chandelier every second of that performance.
Just so I could see it shaking. And I'm like, am I going to hurt someone here? I'm like, there's a reason for them saying this.
Yeah.
So This is the kind of the crazy shit that we go through
Is
to
that one
make
of
things happen.
is that one of and it happened and it was a great party. Is that one of the more stressful, but are there any other, kind of
There are, I mean, there are what happens. So probably we cause this ourselves, though, Tom. We're a bit stupid because what we like doing at Silver Fox events is pushing boundaries. We're not here to do the ordinary. I'm not going to be corny. We do the extraordinary, but we like to push boundaries. If we're doing a table, we build a horseshoe where entertainers can come in the middle of it. If we're building, food stations and koshes, they're with green moss and if we're delivering drinks, my client had 36 bottles of Magnum Petrus there. It's done properly. It's done at the we're pushing boundaries right out as far as we can. So when we get our repeat clients back in again, Raj, you'll sort that. What's your problem? You've done that. You'll sort it out. What's your problem? So we take this on and it's our fault. But then when we deliver upon those pushing of boundaries, we excel all expectations and we did that. What are we going to do next? It really gives us that euphoria feeling. It's amazing.
and, has there ever been anything that you thought, "I just can't do that"?
No, there was only a really another dangerous circumstance, and we were out of our depth a little bit with regards to the decorating company. So we're in Dubai, we're at the Burj Khalifa, and I don't think the client even knows this now, so I don't know. Hopefully, they don't listen to it. And then we had there's a terraced area outside where all the fountains are, and the fountains go off, and you have the light going up the Burj Khalifa, and it was a beautiful wedding reception. We built like a catwalk, like a cross with a central thing, and then four lots of tables. Stunning. Like Dubai's not seen anything like it. Did this. It was no 2019 in March, and then. But while we were setting this up, we had the back-to-back wedding, with the wedding going on in the hotel itself, and then we shipped everyone down. And then as I arrived out on site around 5 o'clock, we had guests arriving at 7. We had these like tripods, really huge trees coming out of a circle of a table. We had about 6 of them out of about 30 tables, and they were huge, like maybe 10-foot high trees, like really really huge things. Uh, with these raw tying things that went straight into the table and onto the floor. But when you go down to the Burj Khalifa and where the terraced areas and the fountains are, there's a bit of a whirlwind that happens in the buildings. If you see it on TV, you'll sort of see all the buildings around you. It's a bit of like a wind lock or whatever you call it,
Right,
like a wind
wind
tunnel.
tunnel, yeah.
So we sort of realized that then about 5 o'clock, it was a bit shaky, a bit wavy. I walked in at about 5:15, just finished the wedding, got the guest ready. You go and get ready now. I'll see you down at Burj Khalifa now, about half an hour away. 300 guests. So I'm down there. All my team have been setting everything. Looks absolutely fabulous. We had these mirrored polo mints built with this tree thing. Set it all up, cutlery, crockery done. Armani's the hotel, and they did the catering. So it's super, super cool. Like they did an amazing dinner for us and stuff. And then I was just walking away because we built a nightclub we had Craig David there doing the DJing set, and it was a surprise after party, and we built it inside Armani because at 11 o'clock at night in most places in the world, you need to close music outside and you go in and you build a club. So we just set that up. He was on his rider, and he's very chilled, man. He was very cool as an artist. And I just was walking towards the nightclub, and then I heard this almighty crash. Like my heart just sunk. I could just hear it. Just went push. I heard glass breaking. I heard something falling really, really heavy. And then I turned around and I saw a swarm of people running to one of these tables. But this massive tree that we had built had fallen. The wind had taken it and just went straight down, straight over the table, broke all the mirror, broke all the glass, and went all over the place. As we're running towards that, then another one went on the other side, straight again. So we're like, oh, fuck. Like we've got an hour and a half now before guests arrive. I can't replace mirror. Not sure why this thing has fallen. How has it been supported at the bottom of the table? And again, to cut a really long story short, because I handle this stuff quite well, went over to it. We looked at the infrastructure of this pole. We managed to get some sandbags. There was only 5 or 4 or 5 of them anyway. We couldn't replace the mirror, so we just got rid of it quickly and just
Yeah.
left the tablecloth there, set it all back up again. And I was that scared, like I was with the sound engineer. I was that scared that I hired 5 guys and I paid them $250 each to sit under the table and hold it for me throughout
Wow.
the dinner, because there's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't sit there during dinner
Yeah.
with a few sandbags again thinking that the wind's not going to pull it over. So the decoration company's never done this before. They just made these elaborate stands for us.
And they've not put them in a wind tunnel. So,
No,
but I guess is that a big part of your job? Or like, so that client and the host of that party would never have known that is,
no,
and is
no,
that a big part of your job?
no,
I
they
presume
never
is
know.
making sure they never know.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, they never know. Like we were in south of France, Marquis, Chateau de Napoli, I think, Indian guy, but he was basically French. Irish groom, very, very funny family. Fantastic wedding it was, a couple hundred people. Sat there under this whole thing, got Porto Chabot again, the same caterers from Paris, same team, really beautiful flowers. But anyway, all that. And then as we're going through dinner, so we're in this old castle. So you need generators, as you guys well know when you're moving around. So we've got generators in. So first course goes out very swimmingly. We're supposed to serve the lamb as second as our main course, then speeches. And then just as we're coming towards the end of starters, the operator, the maitre d', says, "Excuse me, I need to talk to you." I thought, here we go. What do you want, son? And he goes, the generators have gone down and the ovens are off and the lamb is cold. I was like, right, that's really helpful. You're supposed to be the best caterer in France. Start off from generators. Generators always let me, oh, I hate generators. Anyway, so I said, all right. So I said, give me 2 minutes. I said, how long? He goes, to get the generators back up and running, to replace it, it's going to take me about an hour. So instead of serving main course in 15 minutes, it's going to be about an hour. Okay, leave it with me. Went over to speak to the bride's dad. I said, hi, how are you doing? He goes, yeah, fine. He said, oh, Raj, it's fantastic. You're loving it. I said, yeah, no, it's gorgeous, isn't it? The weather worked out for us. You know, what a great party. I was just thinking, I said, we just had canapes. We just had starters. I said, I was just thinking that I'm not sure whether I want to drop the main course straight away. Should we get the speeches out of the way now? And he goes, what do you think so? I said, yeah, I think we're just liven it up a little bit. Give someone a comfort break. Let them go to the toilet. Let's have your speeches. Get them out of the way. You can get drunk after mains then, you know. And he's like, great idea. Let's just do that. It's like, right. So this guy then, because I've got at least 40 minutes worth of speeches, gave them all a comfort break. They all went off. So, ladies and gents, please we're going to have some fantastic speeches when you get back. Blah, blah, blah. In they went, had the comfort break, came back, did the speeches, ovens are back on. 45 minutes, but an hour and 15 minutes later, lamb's being served to the table. Bingo. That's what we do.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like you'll have to be quite fleet of foot to
Yes.
work it out in the moment.
Firefighting.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing, but we still learn from stuff. We're 30 years traded and we still learn from stuff. It's really hard what we do. Like we're not in the top 5 most stressful jobs in the world for a we're there for a reason. You know, with with pilots and with the military and ambulance people, because we have a very stressful job, and we're so under what's the right word? Underappreciated is probably the right word. When we start putting our fees forward, saying this is what we charge and this is what it costs to do this, and you're spending so much money on this event, you need to make sure that all your money goes in correctly and then comes out correctly and it's run correctly. We charge a fee to make sure that you spent your money correctly and it's worked for you. Like, you're trusting us to do this, but it's a very stressful job. And when they start cutting, it's really annoying.
Do you think it's become more stressful? Do you think the expectation has got higher on what a wedding or a party looks like?
Yeah, I really do. And I think because there's a lot of there is a lot of wealth now, right? And there's a lot more on the internet that people see. Okay, so you see stuff like we talked about Kim Kardashian's party. That's put around the internet in 5 minutes, isn't it? Everyone sees it. It's on Pinterest. It's on TikTok. It's done. So you've got wealth and you've got a lot of wealthy people that need to do some really interesting stuff. They're going on the internet to see what they can and can't do. And it's, they're pushing boundaries even more, because they want something a little bit different, or they want to make sure that their party stands out about anybody else's. So if you are not willing to step up and do that and work with those particular clients and say, no, we got this, we can do this, and we will come up with something fantastic, you're going to be left behind, because there's loads of new kids that are coming in right now and they'll take your business off you. So you need to be innovative, you need to be adventurous, and you need to push boundaries.
What would you say are the kind of recent trends in weddings and parties in general that you've had to keep up with? What are the kind of recent requests that you've had?
So I think we've sort of implemented one recent request, to be honest. I think it's really important to have the guest experience. And I think it's all well and good decorating and making these things look fab. But I think music and entertainment, what we basically run it like the five senses, and we run the whole event like a movie, like you guys would. So we go into scene one, which might be the drinks reception. So what are they drinking? What are the canapes are they eating? So we think about what they're smelling. Is there a really nice smell that's quite cool for that particular theme or whatever? What are they hearing? So what does the music sound like? Who's singing? What instruments are there? What are they seeing? Visually it needs to look good. So that those sort of five senses, then you really need to add the X factor, which is like the guest experience. What's going to make that drinks reception for 90 minutes fun for them?
Yeah.
Listening to gorgeous music, drinking Dom Perignon, having the finest of canapes, and talking to people that you generally talk to probably all the time. What's going to tick your box? Okay, so you've got to think of things out of the box a little bit to make that particular scene entertaining. And then you go through each scene like that and work out what you're dropping into these scenes to give the guest experience the best time. So when they leave, they say, oh my God, that was amazing.
What's an example of an experience you've done recently where you thought, we smashed that? That is something that no one else has done.
I think sometimes it's putting characters and entertainment into certain spots.
Yeah.
So I think people love to sort of, when you do like, when you're doing dancing, for example, the dance floor's open or whatever, but say you're in, like, we're going to Seville, we talked about that, or say we've been in Greece or whatever, and in Greece, we had the plate smashing experience. You see it on TV, you hear about it. We did this whole pool party thing in the evenings, welcome party, and we got this band in, this Greek band. Then we got a load of, plate smash. The plates were there, sort of laid out, and then we got this whole team in to do the plate smashing. I've never seen so many people so excited about plate smashing, because it's a totally different experience for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's also going with the spirit of the venue or going with the spirit of the town, and bringing those things in that we don't experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
And if you can pop those into events, it makes them feel really good. And they'll never forget that when they've taken those videos.
Yeah.
They're memories for life. Oh, do you remember we were at the pool party that day and we had to smash all those plates? It was fantastic, wasn't it?
Well, you mentioned a couple of times, you mentioned Craig David and obviously Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
Has that become more of has that become more of a trend? Like, as a thing, I guess we hear more about now, private bookings of big musicians.
Yeah.
Has that become something you have?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we again, what we don't like to do is turn our events into concerts. We did a very big Pakistani wedding at the Dorchester, 18 or 19. And my host, my client, he basically brought in the whole of the Bollywood scene. And we had this guy called Karan Johal, who was the host. And I mean, the stars that were there were insane. Like, you would never see these people because they're, Bollywood, Indian Bollywood's like massive. It's a billion people there that love these people. They're pretty famous, right? So they were there, but the influence of the bride and groom was more on them. The guests were more interested in trying to get a photo with them, trying to see what they're doing or what are they eating, how are they behaving. And the poor bride and groom were sat there. And I remember speaking to the bride on the day and she goes, this is just like a show. Like, this is my wedding and this is going on, and then you had the ex-Pakistani prime minister on one side. It was a bit too much. So you've got to be really careful to balance these things and you need to choose the right artist. So I think back in the day, we had like Sugar Babes or we had like Alexander Burke from X Factor was quite a good feeder for us because we got like artists at the right price who wanted to go onto events and earn a bit of cash. So we used the X Factor thing quite a bit, which was really useful to us. But we've also then realized that we can't have superstars there because it influences the whole event. It becomes like a concert and everyone's just got their phones out on the dance floor instead of enjoying and dancing to the music. Craig David is an entertainer. Like, he smashed his set for 90 minutes. I think he stayed on for 2 hours. But it wasn't, everyone got danced with him. He made sure that everyone was there just with their phone recording people. So there is a fine balance with artists. Gallagher, honestly, everyone just danced with him. It was so cool. And we got that balance perfectly well. And you see people like maybe other artists going out there, but even with Indian artists, they just get a bit too filmed and they forget that they're in somebody's wedding reception and it's not a concert.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a
Crucially,
concert.
you're being booked for someone's
Yeah.
private
Yeah.
event, and
Yeah.
so you act, I guess, as a guest as that at that event.
But sorry, just to finish on that, Tom, there is a really important point here why these people do this again, and it comes down to the hosts of the parties. They want their party to be remembered. I'm saying to those guys that I can make the guest experience in those particular events so memorable that you don't need JLo at the end of it.
Right. I want to ask your advice around weddings and anyone that's watching or listening, if they're getting married, what they should be thinking about.
Absolutely.
What do you think are the common mistakes that people fall into when they're planning their wedding and thinking about their big day?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think a lot of people have got used to this now. It's the weather. Weather can trash events, and I know you might turn up on a really beautiful sunny day at your venue and you think you can have this drinks reception outside, but please, 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 please have contingency. If it rains on that day, where are you going to shift your drinks reception to, or your dinner to, or your wedding ceremony? So contingency is really important with weather. It's a real effort, weather, and it happens all the time.
Have you got had any run-ins with the elements?
So yeah, just literally 2 weeks ago, we're in Greece, 5-day event. The final wedding reception was supposed to be outside. We built it in this gorgeous car park because we didn't have the full facilities indoor to do this. And as we're building it on, say the day before, then we realized there's a thunderstorm coming and it's going to be a complete washout. So we had a beach party during the day and then we had a wedding reception at night. And the trussing had gone up, the lighting had gone up, the band were going to go and rehearse in the morning. And we literally had to move the whole thing inside this golf club. It was an absolute mission. So I'm not just talking about moving an event inside, I'm talking about changing the table structure. So when the bride and groom have worked out that there's 20 people on a long table and we've got 10 tables, and suddenly I'm going into 4s and 6s, and they had to change their table plan overnight, it was a nightmare. Menu choices. So yes, we did. And it happened then, and we didn't expect it to rain in Greece.
No, why would you?
No.
You've gone there. Okay, so are there any other traps that people fall into when they're thinking about their wedding?
I think it's honestly just be realistic with your expectations against money. Things are very, very expensive nowadays. Things have gone up nowadays as well. So, once you've got your food and beverage out of the way and you know what your venue costs you, then you've got all your ancillaries like flowers and balloons or entertainment or DJs and things. I think, I know it's really hard to do a budget planner, and I know I understand that, but some people then end up going towards their wedding and overspending. And there's always a common thing, and they blame the planner sometimes also saying, oh, we thought it was going to be this much, we ended up spending this much. So just try and carve it out a little bit earlier, what you think you're going to spend at the end, because there's lots of hidden expenses. So there's lots of budget planners online, loads of amazing apps now that you can use. So I think just be careful on what things actually cost nowadays, because there's less wedding companies now, obviously post-COVID, and people do charge more money for their services now.
Have you ever organised stag do's or hen do's? Was that a bit that you've ever been asked to get involved in?
I've not really gone out and organised them, but I've been on stag do's and basically ran the event like in Las Vegas or whatever, which was quite fun. But again, really popular, to do these events, but we don't really get involved with them. A lot of them just go abroad. They go to a couple of nightclubs and do what they need to do. Hen parties are more fun. They're a bit more creative, I think, on the girls' side. They maybe go and get a cottage or blah, blah, blah. So the intentions are different, aren't they, from a bride and to a groom? So no, I don't get involved with them, but there is some fun stuff that goes around.
And I guess at all of your parties, lots of people's idea of going to a party is excess, right? You go there, you might have a drink, you're let your hair down. How do you manage that?
With regards to the guests, you
Yeah.
mean? So yeah, I mean, dealing with guests getting drunk or just, yeah, because again, look, what happens is that when we throw these beautiful parties, there's a lot of alcohol, and a lot of maybe the games towards the end of the night or the shots that go out. There's a lot to deal with, So we do keep an eye on that, and we've recently started doing sort of beer and wines during dinner, for example, and the spirit bar opens later. We've started not watering down shots, but maybe doing peach schnapps rather than straight vodka. Tequila's massive though, and no one wants to mix the tequila up, so we have to be careful on tequilas and measuring drinks correctly. They might want triple drinks, but let's not do it. Let's just do doubles for everyone. Okay, let's keep them hydrated as we're going through the night. They're starting at 11 o'clock during the day and then finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's a fair old binge on alcohol, so I think it's for us as planners, again, just watching and being careful with that,
Yeah. Are there any particular kind of types of party or types of kind where you're like, I'm going to watch it in particular here. I'm going to make sure that I've got an eye on how the bar's running.
There's always you know, as you go through a wedding and you've gone through the wedding ceremony and the champagne starts, and you can clock a few people, and then security are on it, I'm on it, and I'm saying, right, we need to watch blah 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 blah. You know, you just know, and as you're getting towards the evening, you just keep an eye on them. You know, generally they're at a family wedding, you know, and they're friends of the bride and groom, so you've got to be really sensitive about that point. But you also need to look at the health and safety of that particular person. So unfortunately, we have had blood, we've had police, we have had fights or squabbles, arguments that trash the end of the evenings of events sometimes, and then we've had to just carry on, you know. So, and it's alcohol driven, you know. So but it's because they've had so much stress during the day, then they've got pissed at night, and they've not realised that, and they're done. That, you know, when you're done, and you start drinking, and you drink more than you probably would. That then just takes them over the edge a little bit, you know, but it's just trying to monitor it as best you can.
Raj, we are approaching the end. I've got a few more questions about you and
Sure.
your job, but before we do, like, I absolutely love hearing the stories of the different events. Are there any other parties that stick in your head as like those close scrapes or things you've pulled off that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, there are on every single event, and you do 90 to 95% of the planning. So I call myself the events architect for a reason. I architecturally plan everything as best I possibly can. As you go out and start running the events with the influences of weather, or a truck from a florist, or a caterer's oven breaking down, or, you know, sound restrictors, or there are going to be problems on every event, and there are big problems and there are small problems. But as long as you have a way out and a way of actually showing that beautiful swan sailing along the lake and where the legs are going crazy underneath, you're fine. It's just about being cool and keeping calm.
but
But there is 100 stories, but we would be here all night.
go on, give me one more. Give me one more. What are there any others that come to mind immediately?
I've only had one cake drop on me. 1999, one of my biggest events at the time, marquee, raised areas. Um, we had everything set up correctly. And then we got the cake from the Grosvenor in Chester, and they didn't put pillars in the cake. It was quite warm in the marquee because we never had AC at that point
Yeah.
in marquees. It was a new thing. It was quite warm outside. So obviously the cake had got a bit warm. And as I walked past the cake just sort of fell, you know, disastrous. We did the best we could. We built it back up again. Lucky the front of the cake looked all right. So we wrapped it with fabric. We put the pillars back in it again. So it made it stand up like you would hold up someone who's totally pissed. And it looked fine.
Another close scrape.
That was 1999. Yeah, I learned early
Yeah.
to have contingency.
We talk about like remaining cool, but it sounds like a terribly stressful job, and also one where effectively you are going to a party, but most nights a week, I'm guessing, or very,
Yeah,
very often.
yeah,
How do you stop
absolutely.
yourself burning out from something like that?
So what I've done recently, and because of my schedule was so hard this year with events, I basically totally gave up alcohol. So I focused on my own body and my health and my, you know, the way I eat and the way I exercise and the way I meditate and the way I've given up alcohol. And I don't think you can do a stressful job in this environment, in a very drinking environment. Also, so about having the odd drink, it just affects you
Mm.
tremendously. It affects me now at this age tremendously. So I've really taken a step back on the party side of stuff. Unless I'm on my own, I'm going to Glastonbury like I do. But if I'm working now, I'm working, and I sleep well, and I try and keep my brain really in tune with what's going on. You know, the expectations are high.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great advice.
Yeah.
And do you think you'll give it up at any point? Is it something that's
No. No. There's something. This is this kind of job that you'll never give up, um, because, and I was explaining this. It doesn't matter whether they spend $5 million with you or £50,000 with you. The event's the event, and it's really important to you and in your heart. And you want to deliver for your client, whether it's a bride and groom or, you know, or a birthday girl or a birthday guy. Like, it's really important. So when you're in, you're all in. And it's not about the money in the spent, it's about delivering upon that event and making sure that the guests have a memorable experience, making sure the bride and groom have a memorable experience. They only have photo and video things left at the end of the day. That's it. They've gone through the whole event and they've got photo and video left, and they take that home and they probably relive it a few times. But we want the guests in 5 years' time to say, you know what? that wedding was amazing, and I loved the way you did this, and it was so much fun, and everything was at ease. But it's the appreciation or the hug that you get at the end of the night after the first dance, and the bride's father or a family member or the person who paid your bill comes up to you and gives you a massive hug and says, Raj, you know what? You nailed that. And it went beyond expectation. Now, you give value for something like that, for someone who spent that kind of money, and that person's giving you a hug at the end of the night. That is euphoria. To try and get that feeling from any other type of business or any other activity is very, very difficult. And that's the drug. That's the drug. That's why you pick up sick off the floor, and that's why you mop floors, and that's why you run around with generators and try and plug things in and just drive yourself f***ing mad to deliver upon that event because of that hug. It's the euphoria that you get at the end. You think, I've done that.
That's lovely.
It's amazing. I feel quite emotional talking about it, actually.
Yes.
But you get that feeling.
And are you still in contact with some of the people who've given that?
All of
feeling
them.
to? Yeah.
All of them. And we do repeat stuff for them, maybe smaller gigs and stuff, but it's just amazing. And you can go back and talk to any of my clients, and they would say, no, he delivered. Like, it was fantastic. He's not just me, my wife, my team, everyone who works around me, my suppliers. We all deliver for that particular thing. And when we go out on an event, we brag everyone together. So I don't care whether you're a florist. If you've got to take, bread to a table, take it. If there's a lighting guy on a trolley up there somewhere and he needs to go and help the bartender wash some glasses, go and wash some glasses. Like, you're a big team here, and this is what's going to make it work. And we're delivering for them. So we need to deliver for them.
But do you think in seeing someone's wedding, you can ever get clues about what the marriage to come is going to be like?
We've been wrong on occasions, though. We've thought certain things were absolutely gorgeous and they were in love and the whole thing, and then you hear about them splitting up a year or so later. It's very sad because you got so involved with that particular person, the bride and groom. So, yeah, we've been quite wrong where you think something is very rosy. And sometimes it's family influenced, which is a real shame in not just our culture and everyone's culture. So, yeah, you just... we've got some right, we've got some wrong, circumstances change, people's minds change. And maybe they, what they thought they were going to do together, they never actually, got there. So it's really tricky.
Let's end on a happier note.
Yeah.
If you could throw any party, if someone came to you with a request and you threw that party, regardless of cost, what would be the dream request that you had land in your inbox? What kind of party do you want to throw?
I love Glastonbury. I love live music, and I love dressing like a tramp and having a drink and listening to beautiful music, and I think for me it's live music is key for us, and I think having that relaxed environment, whether you're on a private island or whether you're in a forest or wherever, I think having that and having that beautiful acoustic sound or a great singer and some different bands and good food and good company, I think that means a great party to me.